Madara Uchiha, being a legendary Uchiha whose name alone was stated to be power in itself, it was powerful enough to the point that the entire five nations allowed themselves to put their biases and differences aside to unite together just so they could stop him. He was basically that guy in the Narutoverse. Yet when it comes to about discussing this man's power, it always felt like something was missing, as in the fact that his strength was being misjudged or misprofiled. So today we're going to take a look at how strong Madara is, or at least was, before he gained access to his rinnegan. Before talking about Madara's strength and whatnot, let me just analyze his fight against Hashirama. The reason I started the main course of the video with this is because of the many misconceptions that surround this fight. So straight off the bat, some of you might disagree with this, but I think it's very close to Hashirama in terms of powers. If you say that Hashirama is 100, then Madara should at least be a 97 to 99. And we all know how strong Hashirama really is. Maybe you do not know how strong Hashirama is and want me to make a video on it? Let me know in the comments. Well, for starters, yes, Madara did not really win his fights against Hashirama, and that essentially does give him a bad reputation when it comes to Madara versus Hashirama debates. But in the final fight, where they fought for 24 hours straight, Hashirama and Madara went all out for pretty much the first time on screen. This fight was much closer than you guys gave Hashirama and even Madara credit for. And before you guys come at my head, the fight before, essentially the first major battle between these two, doesn't really matter since Madara was not really experienced enough with his EMS, as he just got those eyes after Izuna's death. So moving on to the final fight, Madara in that fight had the 9 tails which he captured with the base Sharingan Genjutsu, while Hashirama had access to his Sage mode. And in this relatively grand scuffle, Madara was able to use an attack that was so devastating, it just blew away a lot of Hashirama's Thousand Hands technique, and it's a shame that it's clearly overlooked by almost everyone. Madara was also able to minimize the damage to himself and his Susanoo thanks to the Kurama Biji Bomb Shower, which is a pretty significant feat as it adds something incredible to his arsenal, putting him in a significant tier above a lot of characters, especially before all the 6 path stuff took place. Furthermore, after the initial grand scuffle, Madara in his base EMS form without Kurama was pitted against Sage Hashirama, and both were pushed to their absolute limit. Madara could no longer use his Sharingan and Hashirama could no longer use his Sage mode. Yet after this fight, Hashirama collapsed to his knees, proving my point. This feat is quite impressive because we know that Sage mode enhances a person's strength, reflexes and even speed to some degree, and is considered to be a more than 10 times multiplier if you use the zero statement from part 1 of Naruto. Some argue that Sage mode is a 25 times amplification, but for the sake of this video, we'll stick with just more than 10 times. Some might argue that Hashirama was quite fatigued after his use of Thousand Hands, but it is important to remember that Madara himself did use his perfect majestic attire Susanoo while controlling the 9 tails in the process, so the fatigue factor is not as big as some people make it out to be. Sure, Hashirama could be more fatigued than Madara, but the gap is not really quantifiable, but we do know that both of them were fatigued by some margin after the initial scuffle. Also, my sentiment of Madara and Hashirama being very close in strength is also echoed in the 4th databook, which states them to be equal in strength, and a paper-thin difference between the two of them decided the outcome. Many people forget that Madara could have killed Hashirama right then and there, just after the fight with his user Izanagi, but he had it planned for the Eye of the Moon plan, so it did not go anywhere. Even from his early days, Madara was praised as a prodigy and was pretty much a powerhouse in the Warring States period, when an average lifespan of a shinobi was 30. Madara not only survived this era but came out on top of it alongside Hashirama and was praised as the strongest Uchiha even after his death. And it was for many years to come. He was also blessed with the genes even for a clan like Uchiha, and his progression throughout the series justifies that statement, or rather I'd say sentiment. So moving on to the main scaling, let's take a look at what Madara has up his sleeve. When it comes to arsenal, there are not many people that can match up to him. I mean, look at this guy. Ninjutsu, Taijutsu, Genjutsu, Kenjutsu. He has essentially mastered Bukijutsu alongside having masteries in Fuinjutsu. On top of it, having knowledge of forbidden Uchiha techniques such as Izanami and Izanagi. He also knows a lot about Shinjutsu as evident by the fact that he was able to balance his chakra with Hashirama's Sage chakra, making him a perfect sage in a matter of moments. Not just a hard-hitting brute, but he's also a hard-hitting, skilled and cunning savage who can come up with devastating strategies to beat his opponents. I'd argue Madara has the best battle IQ in the series, but that does depend on interpretation and I'm not going over that. It'll make the video way too long. Not just on the physical side of things, Madara is also a sensory type ninja who could just sense people from miles away, and not only that, but he could also distinguish their clan and even their Kekkei Genkai. His pain tolerance and incredible desire to engage in combat made him a monster to deal with, to the point that only Hashirama was able to deal with him. He was even able to distinguish between a real body and a shadow clone with just a glance, while being a master of psychological warfare and CEO of Black Air Force Energy does give him a masterful edge in battle. He rattled his opponents to their core by exploiting their beliefs and convictions. He just breaks the spirits of the people he fights against, making him even imposing than he already is. So where does this Madara rank in the Narutoverse as a whole? Well, as of now, not that high, as the power cliffing in Boruto has been stupidly superior, but comparing him to the Spuden cast, especially in terms of non-six paths cast, EMS Madara with the Nine Tails Perfect Susanoo and his time reversal Mangekyou Sharingan ability, which is canon by the way, should at least be in the top 5, if not top 3, if we exclude other versions of himself. Also, we can add his feats when he was Edo Tensei, and about Edo Madara scaling or above or even scaling to EMS Madara is a completely different topic that I'm willing to make a video in the future. So if you want to know more about it or want to keep track of it, just hit that subscribe button. Anyway, I wanted to talk about Madara for a long time, and I had this idea of making a video on him, especially this EMS version of Madara whom people really do not seem to care about. Hopefully I made it pretty clear on how strong this Madara is, and I also hope that you enjoyed this video. Until then, it's been your host Doki, and I'll catch you in the next video.